Welcome to Breaking the Ice. We're Patel, Greene & Associates, and we're here to tell stories about our three favorite things: business, culture, and engineering. Let's get to it. Coming up.
Recruiting's just like dating. You're trying it out, you're finding the right person.
But we want people to be successful somewhere, even if they can't be here.
How am I going to show up? How am I going to be a different type of HR person?
From a practical standpoint, like, they could be maybe your client one day, for Pete's sake.
Yeah.
So, welcome back to PGA's Breaking the Ice podcast. I'm excited to be talking to Kaitlyn Balsinger today, our HR director. We're going to get into several things, not to mention recruiting philosophy, workforce development, and a lot of the things that she helps us accomplish here at PGA. So, welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Glad to have you here in good old Bartow. Maybe just to get us started, a little introduction, who you are, a little bit of background, and you and I both can talk a little bit about how you came to be here at PGA. It's a good story.
Yeah, it is. So I came up in recruiting. I worked at a staffing agency in Jacksonville and made my way here to Orlando. I guess not here, but in Orlando. Eventually landed at a AEC staffing agency and had my days in the agency life, was ready to kind of move in-house, went to work at a consulting firm in Orlando, and kind of just worked my way up through recruiting. Eventually a talent acquisition manager, and was looking for the next step. COVID really shook stuff up in recruiting, so kind of kept moving until I found my home and eventually landed here at PGA.
We were glad to have you. Maybe we'll kind of do that story on how you came to be at PGA. And it starts with us doing our second strategic plan. Mm-hmm. And maybe I've covered this some on this podcast, but we're going through all these great ideas and what we were going to do. And after everything, we go, well, who's going to do that? Nobody's got time to do that. And so we said, you know what, let's make mission number one to hire a recruiter. It started with just internal recruiter was the idea. And matter of fact, don't even put that in the plan. Let's do that right now. So I remember leaving the planning session and putting the post, learning how to do a LinkedIn post because you didn't work here yet. So I had to, I'm sure I had marketing. I can't remember. It's been a while now, but we figured it out. Got the post out there. And
on the old website.
Oh, yes, old website, all that good stuff. Yeah. And I think in doing that and having internal conversations, your name came up. And while we had the post out there, which maybe you were able to take a look at, we were like literally like a day late or something like that, right? By the time I reached out to you on LinkedIn, you were 2 days into a new job or something like that? Like, you
I think
just
I had
started.
literally just accepted a new job, and somebody referred me at the same time. I was like international. I was in Europe somewhere, and then I come back and just took the offer and ran with it. And I knew it wasn't going to work out. Like, I remember my 30-day and my 60-day check-in with my boss. I was like, this doesn't quite feel right. And I think I reached out to you somewhere in that time frame. Preparing for that interview, I don't know if I've ever told you this, I listened to you on another podcast.
Oh, yeah. That's right. I did a podcast for that position.
Yeah. You were like, we're looking for this talent management director. And I know,
worked.
I know listening to that podcast, I was like, this is it. This is the job for me, you know? And then I resigned from that other job on my 91st day. You know, they always say the 90 days if you make it or break it. And then I came to work here, and the role was a talent management director at first. That was kind of where the strategic plan led. And then we quickly realized, well, maybe this is an HR director and not just recruiting focus.
That was a battle I lost. Maybe I was getting too cute with it. And I don't always like doing things the same exact way other firms do it. I certainly didn't want to do HR the way other firms do HR. So I wanted to change the name, and we did try. You were our talent management director out of the gate, and that just confused people too much.
It really did, yeah.
So we gave up on that. But it was interesting, you know, you weren't available up front, and So we moved ahead and we did interview a few people.
I'm pretty sure I referred a couple people. Like,
Yeah, you might have. And some of them were pretty good, and some of, whatever, the normal hiring process there. Nobody really like jumped out. We didn't send any offers or anything. And then it's a good lesson in sometimes when you're feeling a little frustrated because you're not filling a position as fast as you want, especially one like that was very important to us. And we really wanted to have that done as soon as possible because it would allow us to do some other things. But we were delayed because, you were meant to be at PGA.
right.
So it was nice when we found out that, okay, well, maybe you're not so happy over there and you might be available for the job after all. We got the interview in and you rocked it. And I think by then we had already kind of figured out it needed to be more than a recruiter. But, even through interviewing you and what your personal aspirations are or were, and probably what we really needed was not just a recruiter. Although looking back, I am very glad that we hired an HR director with a heavy recruiting background because we really did need that. But that's ultimately what we came away with is, okay, I guess we were 110, 120 people
I
then.
think right under 100. I'm pretty sure I was in the 90s.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But likewise for me, like I was advancing in the recruiting world, and I felt like I pretty much mastered recruiting as much as you can for consistently doing it. Of course, there's always things to learn, but funny enough, like 2 positions prior, I had always said, one day I'm going to be an HR director, and little did I know it was going to reach a lot faster than one day. Like, very soon you're going to be an HR director. And
yeah, and I wonder if that was just perfect for us because we'd never had one. You'd never been one. And it gave us a chance to build that out the way we wanted to. So in other words, we're not hiring someone that's been an HR director somewhere for 20 years and they want to do it the way they did that at other firms. That probably would have been a turnoff for me, and there would have been some friction there.
yeah.
But, with you coming in, it was, look, we figured it out together.
Yeah.
In the best way that fit PGA, which I think we do things a little bit differently.
And in the same sense, I'd worked for many HR directors, and I kind of had that mindset. I'd never talked about it, but I was like, I want to be an HR director differently than maybe ones that are talked about or not in a positive way,
Right.
Because you should want to go to HR, and they should feel like a partner, and like you should trust and confide in them. And I felt like I'm a pretty trustworthy person, and a lot of people confide in me, so it kind of naturally happened.
Yeah, I think that's why we tried to go with a different name, talent management. Just not that human resources sounds negative, but over the years and through, TV shows like The Office, you get this this weird stigma about it,
HR.
right?
Yeah.
Where talent management was meant to have a more positive spin, but that we had to go away from that, and so now the onus is on us just to communicate and build the culture that HR is good. It's good, and here to help. Even though we'll get into it at some point in this podcast. Sometimes the days aren't fun, and that's part of the job too. But the vast majority of it is we're here to help the experience of working at PGA be awesome.
Yeah, I always wanted people to think of me as Kaitlyn, not as HR. Like,
Right.
oh no, that's HR coming down the hallway. Like, oh, it's Kaitlyn,
Exactly.
She's just like one of us.
Yeah, she can help me.
Yeah. Except she's HR.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about some things we have done that, we've done them in our own way. We knew that we had to build some systems out. We were growing, and we had a strategic plan to really, really grow, and we're working that plan now. But at some point, no matter how, I don't know what the word would be, how loose or how much you want to focus on culture and how important people are, at some point you need a system. And we were starting to feel that in some ways, like, we can talk about our applicant tracking system, performance management, things that worked fine when you got 40 or 50 people. Start to get a little unwieldy when you've got 150 people. So
Yeah, I remember
you took a lot on there from the beginning, and you're still all that stuff's in place now, but still, a big part of your job. So talk a little about that whole process.
And still changing, honestly,
Yes,
to
yeah.
this day. But yeah, I remember in my interview, I was like, okay, well, you guys are going to need this and this and this and this. And
Never heard of it.
it's like, well, one day we're going to need this too. And like, what do you think about that? And I think just like you're saying, you're like, okay, well, let's do it. We need to grow. We need to hire all these people. We need to fill these offices. We've got this big plan to grow to 300 people. And I was like, let's do it. So I knew from day one, like, we had to get an applicant tracking system. Recruiting was a main focus. How are we going to get people in? We've talked about the old website on other podcast episodes, but the old website didn't feed to like LinkedIn or Indeed or any of that. So getting a system that could advertise our jobs and get our name out there a little bit more, like, that was like step one. And we did that, and it worked well. Like any change in new systems and processes, people caught on to it and eventually learned how to use it. And then I was emailing around PDFs for now 100 people twice a year and said, maybe we need a performance management system. This is a lot of work. And that one kind of came naturally too. And we started to build out other processes, like then training and development rose in priority, and we did a learning management system. And now we're kind of thinking through like how those systems talk to each other and maybe falling into one central place, payroll and everything like that. Recently moving to ADP,
Yep.
and that's kind of like where we're at now.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I've been battling, and I guess the leadership been battling a little bit, and I write about it every now and then in our newsletter, is this sort of feeling of going corporate. And some of these systems, it's hard to avoid that perception. Like we went to ADP for payroll. Well, that's what the big companies do.
Mm-hmm.
Even having an HR director, that's what the big companies. So I think we've done a pretty good job of communicating, like, and this is what's really important. Not only this stuff, but really with anything, and maybe helps that is there's a why. We're not doing it because we're getting bigger. I mean,
Right.
in a way we are, but that's not the why. The why is the old way sucked. It wasn't working. It was super inefficient. There's a better way to do performance reviews. There's a better way to keep track of all these applicants that we have, and not only that, but getting the word out to the applicants is super important. And what we were doing wasn't working, and guess what? They sell systems that help you do that. And so I think we've always done a pretty good job of explaining, like, okay, you're gonna have to go into the system now, and it may feel a little more formal than what you're used to, but it's really gonna help you, and there is a reason that we did it. So, and you were a big part of that communication.
Yeah, I think the intention, just like the intention behind having a position that I filled, and then the intention behind like having systems and processes, it's also what's really important. I was really thoughtful when picking the systems out, that they all talk to each other. And if I wasn't an HR director, I would be okay with going in and clicking around and configure things out on my own, and didn't need to go watch a 30-minute webinar on how do I add my goals again, So that was really my thought process, in making sure that, like you said, we weren't doing it just because other corporate jobs and people do it, but we're really being intentional. Eventually you grow to a size where you can't do things the way you used to do them anymore. So what does that look like when we move forward, and how does that align with our strategic plan? I was always thinking about that too.
Yeah, and I think with anything we build, whether it's just like an HR system like this, or our project managers have to do, some sort of financial work on their projects, those aren't things that people always love to spend their time on. There's no way around that. So we want to design them or set them up anyway where people can get in and out. So we get the value of the thing. Go do your performance review. Or your goal setting, or go in there and check on these applicants that came through and review their resume. But make sure we're doing a good job. Like your group can spend the time to make sure that everyone else can just kind of come in, do what needs to be done, and come back out, so that's not such a dread
Yeah.
on the thing, and that way people actually do it because
Yeah.
we need them to do it.
Well, the great thing about systems is they send notifications. So it's not me poking everyone like, go look at this resume and go do your review form and go take this training, you know. So it feels a little different when the system's kind of working the process for you too, because I hope that the employees in our teams know like, oh, okay, I know why I've got to go do this. And this is the thought process behind that.
And we won't get into all your alternatives analysis that you did. I think I don't know if we can share that in the show notes. But I'm a real podcaster. Or, you know, I'm sure you're free. If anybody listening to this podcast is like, I think we need an ATS, I wonder what one they're using, they can reach out to you, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about, we'll stick this right in the middle.
Okay. Sandwich method.
Yes, so exactly. Tough conversations. So I like to think we've always been a company that is, you know, more or less good at having the tough conversations when they need to be had. And before you were here, that was either on like mere hiring or you know, someone's supervisor and a leader or something like that. And that's still the case, but you get to be a part of pretty much all those conversations now.
Yeah, exactly.
'Cause that falls in your purview. So maybe talk a little bit about providing those tools, you know, helping managers get through those tough conversations, maybe how what we can do on a daily basis to help avoid having to have the much less tough conversation to avoid the really tough conversation.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to communication, you know, and everyone always says that. Well, if you communicate more, then you won't have to have the tough conversation. But it's not just that. It's like how you're communicating. I'm sure others can relate. I've had my fair share of bad bosses and really great bosses, or even in your personal life, like someone you look up to that communicates really well, and someone where you're like, I'm never going to talk to someone like that, you know? And I think that was a lot of what I did preparing for this role too, was like, how am I going to show up? How am I going to be a different type of HR person? And it really came down to communication. I want someone to feel like okay with leaving a conversation, even if it's tough, not in tears and wanting to go put their resume on LinkedIn immediately. And it, you know, we're all human. We don't make the perfect decision every single day, but having the conversation of giving real-time feedback is what's really important. And that always doesn't work. You know, sometimes we're busy and tasks fly and then weeks go by and months go by and you've realized you've been frustrated 5 times at someone for doing whatever, you know. And then you come to me and you're like, this is a problem. So we've got a couple of methods of what we do internally. You know, we use coaching notes. That was a mentor in my HR realm kind of recommended that to me. And then we have, of course, PIPs and all the other, you know, termination steps. But coaching notes are really helpful for us. It's kind of just like a knock, knock, hello. You know, you need a little redirection. You need a little help. It's written down and kind of given out like, here's where you can improve and here's what we expect for you to do to improve in those ways. And those go really well. You know, I mean, it's never a fun conversation to have, but I think I hope people appreciate at least getting the feedback instead of getting a PIP or getting fired or something like that, is having the opportunity to make the improvements. No jerks here. So I think we also try to communicate it in a way that's like helpful and not, you know, coming down on people.
Right. Well, I know one thing we've talked about for sure, this company is full of helpful people. So even in those tough conversations, we still really want to help people, even if we're a little bit frustrated. Maybe as a manager, I haven't done my job of communicating that feedback well enough. So maybe I even feel a little guilty about that. But at the end of the day, like I'm frustrated with someone's job performance, but I still want them to succeed. Ideally, I want them to succeed here.
Yeah.
And so the those conversations are super duper important, and we go into them, even if it is like a fully documented thing, which there's no way around having those conversations where it doesn't feel like I'm in trouble.
I'm in the principal's office. Yeah, here we go.
It's impossible to avoid that, but I think the way you approach it and the way you help our managers approach it of this is meant to be helpful. It really, really is. This is not a paper trail to something else that's coming. Sometimes it ends that way, but that's never our intent. You know, it's
Right.
here's some problems. Here's how to fix those problems.
Yeah.
You do those things and it's great. And I guess probably like most companies, we've had mixed results. You know, sometimes those conversations, even if they were like tough, still in the moment, they're effective. Someone makes some changes and they're great.
Yeah.
And we never look back, you know?
Yeah.
And then, you know, sometimes people just either aren't able to, or at the end of the day, don't really want to make the changes. And, you know, tougher conversations happen, I guess, sometimes. But
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's never fun,
No.
you know, but I think if you do it in the right way, it's not as bad as it seems it's going to be, you know. A lot of the times when I'm like talking a supervisor off the ledge or helping them think through how they're going to communicate it, you know, it's like, okay, well, have you told them you're upset? Well, no, I've been too busy. It's like, okay, well, let's give them a chance. You know, like we're all kind people here, so like let's give them a chance, and then it's up to the person, you know, to make that decision, to take that feedback, to really understand that they have some ways to improve, and at the end of the day, it's their career, so how they want to, you know, see that pan out is really on them. But we also do have a responsibility to help, you know, guide them back to the water and help them understand why they maybe fell off or wherever they went, you know. So I think about that too. And then, you know, at the end of the day, it's just talking through it with someone like, hey, maybe I've done this before and here's how I came out of this situation. I found that to be pretty successful too. Not just, this is what you're doing wrong and here's how you're going to fix it. And
you got 2 weeks.
yeah, here you go. No pressure.
Yeah. And we obviously want all those things to work and be effective, and sometimes they're not. And then we find ourselves, you know, having those really tough conversations when maybe we just figure out, well, it's not going to work. And always try to remind folks, I have to remind myself too, when it comes down to those situations. If someone's not being successful here, we're not doing them any favors by letting them stay.
Yeah.
So even though I was just having a conversation earlier today with my mentee, and we talked about that. You know, someone comes in, you know, they're never really kind of catching on or picking things up, and you have the coaching note and you try to help them, and they just still, you know, even though they looks like they're trying, just don't quite get there. And well, I don't even think this applies to entry level. It really should apply to anyone. It's not always that easy, but it really should. And then you let them go.
Yeah.
And it feels like,
Be free,
man,
find something else.
what a waste of time. And when we were having the conversation, I'm like, it feels like it's a waste of time for everybody. But my wise mentee pointed out that not really. Maybe it is for us at the end of the day. You know, we set out to hire someone good and then be successful here. It didn't work out. So kind of in a way, it ended up being a waste of our time. But not for them. They hopefully learned something.
Yeah.
And even if they didn't learn a whole lot, what they did learn is I got to do something differently in this next job to be successful. And we can hope that happens, right?
Or do something different altogether.
Yeah, right. I mean, if it's, exactly, kind of entry level, you can make that sort of decision. But so it really isn't a waste for them, which is kind of, you know, a silver lining to a situation like that. But ultimately, it's a kindness to help them, you know, find that way. It's a bummer that they can't be successful here, but we want people to be successful somewhere, even if they can't be here.
When I first got into recruiting, everyone always told me, like, recruiting's just like dating. You're trying it out, you're finding the right person, you're matchmaking. And I was like so young and didn't have that much dating experience. But now that I have a lot more dating experience, I'm like, it really is, And kind of the point I'm getting to is breakups, hopefully if you break up with someone, you learn something about that relationship. And I think of that in the same way with hiring, maybe they lasted 3 months, 6 months, a year. Hopefully they learned something. Hopefully we learned something. Maybe the role isn't what we expected it to be. Maybe we're looking for something different in someone than what we initially put in the job posting. And so it's a good reflection point. I think, I hope that anyone that is going through a tough conversation or a termination or anything like that looks in the mirror as well and says, like, what could have I done differently? Because it really is on the leadership, and it's on the person to make the decision to, fit the role, do the job, or change the role and find who we need to hire.
Yeah, and I guess last point on this, and we'll move on to more positive topics, but and we don't really have to coach this here because, again, everybody is just generally kind. Nobody's out to make someone feel bad about themselves. But it's an incredibly small community.
Oh, yeah.
And so it definitely doesn't do you any favors, even if you have to make a tough decision like that, to do it the right way. It's the right thing to do anyway, but also from a practical standpoint, like they could be your client one day, for Pete's sake.
Yeah.
So be nice. All right. So let's circle back to recruiting and career fairs. And so we talked a little bit about, you got a heavy recruiting background, and we talked about some of the systems that we put in place to help us do that. So like the ATS, for example, does a great job of helping us organize, getting the word out and bringing candidates in. But then when we get them, there's still work to do. So talk a little bit about improvements and streamlining and whatnot that you've done on our onboarding process and things that go along with that.
Yeah, I like you just said, like, it's a small industry. So when I first got here, recruiting was done by who you guys knew. Like, oh, we know this person, they worked here, or I know someone that knows someone that, we want to hire. And so we started to get the systems and the processes underway, and that still naturally happens. You hear about someone through the grapevine, maybe interested in looking somewhere else. But, when you get here, then it's like, okay, well, what do I do, So I have, again, a lot of experience in maybe onboarding not efficiently, and was like, okay, well, I never want to feel like when I show up to work that nobody knows I'm here.
Exactly.
Like, oh, it's your first day. Who are you? Like, hopefully everyone knows who you are. It's your first day. Your desk is set up.
So excited that you're here.
Yeah. So we coordinate a lot between our admin team, our IT team, like us, like everyone has a role. It's documented and laid out. That's the task type in me and the people map. And that took some time to refine, especially as we open more offices, and maybe that people were onboarding 100% remote and what that looked like in smaller offices. And I think we've got a really good system and process down now. It flows through ADP or our ATS, and, it kind of works for itself. But that was definitely another one of the things, like when I first started, like, okay, well, we're finding the people and we're hiring them and we're growing and everything's going well, but we could probably, outline this a little bit better. Our career fairs too, so we've got people coming in through our applicants, but maybe we're not finding who we're looking for, and maybe no one knows anyone for this role. So we're going to grow them internally, you know? Yeah. And we were always really established at USF, you and Hiron went there and had good connections there. And the Orlando office was growing, so we really started to dive into UCF. And as we've grown, we've found more schools where maybe somebody at PGA is like, I'm an alumni, or my son or my daughter goes here. And we started looking at that too. And that was really fun when we started growing. And then it got to a point where it was like we were going to 30 events in a semester. And we kind of had to say, okay, well, which ones are we going to pick, and how are we going to invest our time? Like, coming back to that intentionality. Somewhere in this process, I grew my team. I've got 2 really incredible recruiters on the team now that kind of help me go to the events. Well, they go to most of them. And we built some tools around that as well. Madeline's really great. She wanted to dive into Are we getting the return on investment in all these events that we're going through? General body meetings and career fairs and SWE and SHEP and ASCE, which ones are working for us? So we built a tool to kind of track each semester how much we pay for the event, how much we're spending traveling and maybe overnight or driving across the state, and then how many students apply, and then how many students do we hire. And that really kind of helps us every semester look at where we're going to go at the end of the year when I'm budgeting for the next year for career fairs. Like, we're always successful here, or maybe this one isn't always successful, or maybe a school is just starting a group, they've never had ASCE or SHEP before, and this is their first time. So we give them the benefit of the doubt. We probably go back to 1 or 2 more events, and then just depending on like strategic hires, if we're looking to grow in South Florida, maybe we'll go to a school down there. And it's always different every semester.
Yeah, you'll do a great job of that. We definitely get spread around, and y'all get pretty good, I think, volunteers. From staff.
Yeah, it's really, really great that everyone here is committed to recruiting. So it's not like me or Madeline or Trevor at every event, every week, everywhere in Florida. People are always volunteering, like, oh, I'd love to go, or, supervisors are recommending their staff based on their goals. Maybe they want to do public speaking, or...
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and so they'll say, okay, well, go to a career fair, go present at an ASCE general body meeting, and you'll learn about public speaking.
I think Hiram made me feel a little guilty. I think he's going to a USF one sometime this year.
He's been to a UF one, too.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, he sneaks up there.
Yeah.
I probably need to go to one.
They would love to hear from you.
I'm sure they would. All right. What about a couple of programs? So we got STEP and LIT. We'll do STEP first. We started that. I guess we started that before you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that was like Johnny's brainchild.
Yeah, I want to say this is our 5th year.
Johnny Fun.
Don't quote me on that. Hopefully this is our 5th year. But it's definitely, we're a few years into it now. And same there. We switch it up every year. I mean, the base of it is it's a rotational internship program over the summer. And it's great for students that are maybe like a junior, a senior that still has a couple semesters. Like, they got their core fundamentals of the classes, and civil engineering has so many facets of it. So they don't know if they want to do transportation. Everyone knows they love structures. And it really gives them an opportunity to have a day in the life in every discipline and really understand what it's like to work a project from the beginning to the end.
Yeah, I think we really built up a reputation. Like, the kids really pour in for that. And so it's nice as we get to do a bunch of interviews like y'all are.
Yeah.
I guess maybe you're wrapped up now, or you got 1 or 2 more, but like, it's a whole thing. And then we pick cream of the crop.
I think the first year I did it, there was just folders of resumes, like paper resumes everywhere. And, students were like, oh, I'm interested, or I want to do this, And now I think at a lot of the career fairs we go to, people know about the internship program, or maybe someone in, their committee or at the school has done it in the past and they heard great things. And so the competition is really tough. We wish we could hire 100 interns, but it wouldn't be as, valuable to them. But we get really good feedback every year. So we, just like an employee exits, we make sure to debrief with them. What did you like? How could we do better? Did it make sense that we rotated the disciplines this way? And I think almost every year we've tweaked a little bit, something about the program. Maybe, so at the end of the program, there's a project and they have to present and use those public speaking skills.
They do a good job too.
They do, we have leadership from all the disciplines join in and pretend like they're an actual, person pursuing a project, and give them good notes or ask really tough questions and see how they answer.
That's why Johnny wanted to do this program, so he could sit in those presentations and ask them all those tough questions. He grills them, man.
He really does. Carol's really good at it too. She asks a lot of really good questions too. So, and I think they learn a lot from it. a lot of the time we have the step interns come back for a discipline internship. Garrett is a good example. He's now full-time with us. He's been with us for a while, a year or so. So that was the goal, I think, of the program when it first started, was giving students an opportunity to really understand what it's like. I think maybe DOT does something similar.
For a long the PE training program, they've had that for a long time.
Yeah.
And I guess we sort of modeled it after that. I mean, it's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, I've worked at other engineering firms that like thought about it but couldn't make it work because they were siloed. Like, you know, this office pays for their employees, and like, you know, maybe if they're getting work from Tampa, or if there's not a roadway in Orlando, like how would that work? And so I know one particular company, they really wanted to do it, but they just couldn't get it to work. And so that's a benefit.
Easy.
Yeah, that's a benefit of us, you know. No, one cost center, you know, working all
everybody
the
on the same
offices.
page.
Yeah,
too,
yeah, everyone works together.
All right, leadership and training. I'm sure we've talked about this a couple of times on previous episodes. So this is our, as you know, our annual program. I think we're on our 4th cohort.
I think so, yeah.
So, but you know, 6, 7, 8 of our, some of them are kind of existing leaders. Some of them, it's usually a mix of sort of upcoming leaders and maybe those that have been leaders for a while. And we send them through, it's really four solid sessions and then a 5th sort of wrap up. They do a presentation and then they graduate. And it's turned into a really, really great program. And this came out of our first strategic plan. And we had Mark Isaac facilitate the very first year, which you were in.
I watched that one.
Watched it.
Yeah.
And you were in the second.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
The second cohort.
Yeah, because you had to train in your own cohort.
Yeah. Yeah. I participated and presented.
Anyway, this is probably something you didn't anticipate when you were interviewing for the position, that
Not
you would
at all.
have, something like this to do. But talk a little bit about LID and the role that you have assumed in that now.
Yeah, so I present the first 2 sessions. The first session, we really get into the people map and personality types and communicating with different people, kind of going back to the tough conversations. It helps prepare leaders to have those conversations by just understanding people a little bit better. And for those that don't know, the people map, it's a AEC personality assessment. It's not like an hour long. It's really quick and to the point, but there's 4 personality types, and similar to all the other ones, you know, DISC and Myers-Briggs, that break down, you know, you communicate this way, or you organize your tasks this way, or, you know, this motivates you, whatever type you are. So that's the first session. I got certified in People Map to be a People Map trainer. And it's been exciting to see the feedback that people like really find it interesting and like understand, oh, well, that's why my boss does this. Or, oh, that's why when I ask my employee, they don't do this, you know?
Or I bet my wife must be a...
Yeah, exactly.
Y'all fill in the blank with that, whatever you want. People map type is what I was thinking.
Yes, exactly. And it's always fun to see people make the connections, but it really helps you become a better leader, is understanding people, understanding, you know, what motivates them, how they like to be communicated with, and then how to be a leader for your staff and help them grow in different ways. And so that's a lot of the first session. The second session, we get into some of the things we've talked about here, like, you know, what happens if you've understood your employee and you've tried to communicate with them and that's not working, you know, really getting into having the tough conversations and when to have a coaching note, and talking through a little bit deeper of like who we are and recruiting. And so as a leader, you can go out and find the people, and then you bring them in, and then you hopefully help them continue to grow, and then you grow as a person as well. So we do a lot of activities. We do some role playing, or, you know, what would you do if kind of thing.
Very good. Well, I think that just about covers everything we had on our list to talk about. Anything else on your mind?
No, that was a lot.
Yeah, we covered it.
Yeah.
Well, you're doing a great job covering your 2 sessions of LIT. You're doing a great job as an HR director.
Thank you.
AKA talent management director.
Thank you.
And and we got a lot more growing to do.
We
so
do.
More work to do. All right. Well, thank you for joining me on this episode. It has been a pleasure
Yeah, thanks for
covering
having
these
me.
topics.
My first podcast.
First podcast ever. All right. So we'll end this one like we do. We're going to do it on 3.
Okay.
All right. 1, 2.
Go
PGA.